Let's go! Crazy mailbag today. It's been one of the wildest weeks on our channel because of the Texas and Oklahoma news and a lot of recruiting news. So we're going to get to as many of your comments as we possibly can. Starting off with the best comment of the week, LJ Gaming. Here he is with this child at Tiger Stadium. It's always the best. I love fathers on this channel. Texas loves finishing fourth. I love it. Horns down, baby. I don't care where you are. This always makes me feel great, especially now that Texas pulled a total snowflake move, and that word gets overused, but it is such snowflake behavior to say, oh my God, don't do the horns down. So I want everyone to just do that right now. If you're holding your phone, just look at your phone and do it. Huh? Man, I love this comment, and it's true. Southern Deer TV with the NIL rules, and by the way, that is such a great name. So here's the thing. Let me go ahead and throw this out here. We always throw a comment section question out there. What I want it to be today, do you think this helps or hurts LSU? Okay? I need your help on this because this is obviously such a state of flux. And for those that didn't see, it looks as if the national reporters have said that this looks like this is going to be a done deal, that Texas and Oklahoma will be joining the SEC. Texas has them join the SEC will drastically hurt LSU's Texas pipeline in recruiting. Anyone who thinks it won't is lying to themselves. As an LSU fan, I don't support anything that could affect LSU negatively, and this for sure does when you factor in the NIL and so on. So you're not the only one that said this, okay? So Logan also says, I think it would make recruiting in the state of Texas a little tougher. Okay. And trust me, you're looking at maybe another comment or two. A lot of you have said this. Well, we're not going to be able to recruit in the state of Texas as well as we once did. There's no denying that Texas has produced a lot of really good players for LSU, and it's really hard to get kids from Texas now more than ever before because obviously Texas is on an upward trajectory with the new coach and potentially joining the SEC and Texas A&M becoming better. Yes, recruiting Texas does matter because they do have a really they do recruit and they do produce a lot of great players. A lot of them also do miss. Now, once again, I've not done an overall audit of Texas prospects. I have done an audit of Texas wide receivers, and the data doesn't really back them up all that well. In fact, we've already done a piece on that when you compare top 100 blue chip Texas wide receivers to top 100 blue chip Louisiana wide receivers. I'm going to let you guess who actually blows who out of the water. The answer would surprise you. It is floating in the top right corner if you want to see our deep dive on Texas versus Louisiana wide receivers. But we're not just focusing on wide receivers. We're focusing on Texas prospects in general, okay? So yes, it is harder to recruit the state of Texas. LSU has had a lot of really good players from the state of Texas, whether that be Michael Brockers for that 2011 team or the 2007 team with Matt Flynn or the last national championship team, which included 5 guys from the 2017 class that were from the state of Texas. 4 of those guys hit: Kerry Vincent, Caleb on Chason, Ed Ingram, and Austin Deculus. And that season, remember 2017, LSU was able to take advantage of Texas not being great and A&M not being great. Remember, A&M and Texas were going through some transition. LSU was able to pounce on that and get some really good prospects from that state. But now that Texas and Texas A&M are on an upward trajectory and Alabama has really set their ground in the state of Texas, it has become even harder to hit Texas prospects, whether or not Texas was coming into the SEC anyway. We saw this already with Bryce Anderson, who was committed to LSU, and now he's down to Texas and Texas A&M. So the first thing we have to realize here is that, yes, it does help Texas as far as the recruiting pitches are concerned. That's a big reason why Texas and Oklahoma are joining the conference. But as far as Oklahoma and Texas getting Texas prospects, they were doing that regardless of whether or not they were joining the SEC. And even when they didn't go to Texas or Oklahoma, they were still going to Texas A&M and Alabama way more than they were going to LSU. So, in other words, the Texas pipeline to LSU, once again, I mean, you could talk about the Texas Tigers, Siren Black, whoever, But for every Siren Black, there's been a Luke Muncy or a Chauncey Aguirre or whatever. A prospect that honestly wasn't really that great. So I'm going to share with you some data. So from 2008 to 2019, Texas prospects, there have been roughly 36, 35. Let's go with 35. I'm not going to include the kickers in this. Only 12 of them hit, as in they were good to all-time great. Just say you don't hit on those Texas prospects. Let's just say LSU strikes out on all the elite Texas prospects, all the elite Alabama prospects. Oftentimes they resort to recruiting a Louisiana 3-star. Now, the data I'm about to show you is really incomplete because I am working on something where I look at Louisiana 3-stars as a whole, guys that don't even go to LSU. So once again, understand the data I'm showing you here is very, very simplistic, but it is interesting. Of the 65 Louisiana 3-stars since 2008 to 2019, 30 of them hit, which comes out to 46%. Okay, now, once again, the Texas 3-stars, 12 out of 35, roughly 1 out of 3, and here we have 46%, so 4.5 out of 10, or close to 50% of the time, Louisiana 3-star hits, which is pretty good. Remember, that Texas number includes 4 and 5-star players. So what does this tell us? That when you miss on the elite Texas or just anywhere prospects and you end up just getting a Louisiana 3-star, you would be shocked how often they actually turn out to be great players. And a lot of you are familiar with that, but it's interesting when you actually see those numbers. The recent data, if you think, well, 2008, that's so far, it's so long ago, let's just take a look at the recent data. Do that from 2013 to 2018, of the 2017 Louisiana 3-stars, 15 of them hit. So more than half. So recently, Louisiana 3-stars have been really fruitful endeavors for LSU. Now, once again, that doesn't, I mean, this could just be totally random. You always recruit the players you feel are the best, but it goes to show you that if Texas or just all these other schools, if we can't pry the best talent from those states, LSU could, in theory, still be fine. Now, so I got a lot of this. I want to keep our old schedule and keep our rivalries. So this is, a direct comment from our video yesterday, and it obviously generated a lot of, fan response. Not only this from LSU fans, but from Mark, who's an Auburn fan and watches our channel. We have a lot of Auburn fans that watch our channel. I just can't imagine a world where we're not playing Georgia every single year. The thing about rivalries is not only people love their teams in history, but they love hating the other team. Totally get it, and trust me, from my perspective, I like playing Florida and Alabama every single year. And I know yesterday, the schedule pods that I released, how an LSU schedule would actually look, does not include Alabama and Florida on the schedule every year. However, it is the best of both worlds because with this new pod format that we shared in yesterday's video, you would still be playing all the teams in your conference once every 2 years. It is way better than what we have now. And in order to achieve that, we have to get rid of some of the older rivalries that aren't your top rival, okay? So in yesterday's pod system, we tried our best to keep all the rivalries that need to happen. So, Mark, you're an Auburn fan. So, yes, the Georgia rivalry means a lot, but it's not the Alabama rivalry. The Iron Bowl has to happen every year. So, Alabama and Auburn would need to be in the same pod. Same thing is true for the Egg Bowl. Ole Miss and Mississippi State have to be in the same pod. And they were in the same pod as LSU and Texas A&M, and we'll get to that with another comment in a second. So, yeah, sometimes when your sport evolves, those things go out the window. And just a personal anecdote here, my favorite annual LSU football game is the Arkansas game. I grew up in South Arkansas. All my friends went to Arkansas, even though my entire family was from South Louisiana. And, it was always fun. I was so against moving the game from Thanksgiving because the LSU-Arkansas game was such an important rivalry for me. But it took time for me to realize that you can't preserve anything, or you can't preserve everything. And, it was time to move on from it. It sucks. It really does. But things change. They just do. And if we try to keep all the rivalries, you cannot evolve. You cannot grow. And with the way that the conference schedules are shaped up now, it makes no sense that you would have a conference where you don't play a team for once every 6 years. That is insanity. Here's P. Harrell, and Logan and Salt had similar comments to this one. If these guys can enter the transfer portal whenever they want, teams should be awarded the scholarship they abandoned. And here's Red Rain. I wish they expand classes to 30 recruits per class. So starting off here, you can't do 30 recruits per class because that's just going to make the powerful that much more powerful with 5 extra slots. That means 5 more slots can go to the powers at B. Now, back here to P. Harrell, if these guys... Okay, so, look, this is why colleges don't want this to happen, because they fear the powers at B would force out the players that they don't like. Because remember, scholarships are not guaranteed. You can get your scholarship revoked at the end of every season just for quite simply not being good at football. And that sucks, right? You do all the right things, you're not good, and they take away your scholarship, right? This happens a lot more. This happens a lot more than you probably think. It happens more often, in my humble estimation, in baseball, where scholarships are more scarce. But it does happen in football as well, to open up a slot for a class. So that's what a lot of colleges would fear, is that Alabama would process, in another word, current players so they can open up more slots for transfers. And coaches do not want to incentivize that at all, because they would fear the more powerful would get more powerful. However, I do think there could be some adjustments to that rule. And I think that could obviously help, a school like LSU out that has lost a lot of players late this offseason in the portal. The best lesson from LSU is that you should leave spots open for transfers in every class. More than just 2, because LSU was able to get Major Burns and they were able to pick up Mike Jones. These are 2 guys that could start right away for LSU, Mike Jones being the more likely of the 2. And let's just say Major Burns turns out to be a star, then it would force you to open up more slots for transfers, because we've seen LSU's roster get transformed quite a few times now by transfers. So if we know that a transfer has a huger impact on a program than, let's say, a high school prospect, then you need to leave as many slots open for those guys as you possibly can, while at the same time not sacrificing high school development. So my recommendation would be as followed. Don't use any more than 22 slots on high school prospects. Hope you enjoyed this video today. Obviously, a lot to get to, and on our live streams, we actually go even deeper on all these topics. Some really fun content's floating in your face right now. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom! I think we're doing low main tonight. Let's go!